Hey everyone, tonight we're exploring the story of British sailors who transformed a scientific voyage into one of history's most bizarre economic disasters. So before you settle in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I create here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You've been at sea for 8 months. 8 long, exhausting, soul-crushing months. The food tastes like preserved despair. The water could pass for murky broth, and your sleeping quarters smell distinctly of damp fabric and accumulated regret. The crew has stopped discussing women and started imagining them in the grain patterns of the wooden planks. Morale hovers somewhere between barely functional and ready to mutiny if anyone had the energy. Then one morning, salvation. A green shimmer appears on the horizon. Tahiti, an island so lush it seems deliberately designed to mock your suffering. As you draw closer, the air transforms. It carries the scent of fruit, flowers, and oxygen that hasn't been recycled through 40 British lungs for months. You're uncertain whether to weep or simply abandon ship and swim toward it. The local inhabitants wait for you on the beach, brown-skinned, laughing, wearing approximately the same amount of clothing as a modern advertisement. They wave, smile, and call greetings while you and your fellow sailors lean over the railing, suddenly rediscovering your faith. Someone mutters, "Have we died?" Another responds, "If so, please don't inform the captain." Captain James Cook insists you're here for science, to observe the transit of Venus and advance the glory of the British Empire. You nod solemnly, pretending to care about astronomy while staring at scenery that tests every ounce of your remaining self-control. Cook discusses celestial bodies, but the crew's attention has focused on much closer subjects. When the longboats reach shore, paradise rushes to greet you. The Tahitians bring food, water, and smiles so warm they feel almost improper. You offer shiny metal trinkets and the world's least fashionable haircuts in exchange. The interaction is cheerful and innocent, for now, but you can already sense that something ridiculous is about to unfold. As sunset arrives, drums echo through the trees. The air grows thick with roasted breadfruit and moral uncertainty. Cook stands on deck, gazing at the horizon like someone sensing approaching disaster, but too British to acknowledge it openly. You stare at the glowing island and think, this place might be our undoing. You're absolutely correct. And it begins with a single nail. Officially, you're here for scientific observation. You've traveled halfway across the world to witness the transit of Venus, which sounds impressive until you realize it simply means watching a tiny dot move across the sun. Captain Cook discusses it constantly, explaining how this will revolutionize astronomy forever, how Britain's name will shine among the stars. You nod politely, pretending genuine interest, while privately thinking about how long it's been since you've had a proper conversation not involving salted pork. Cook embodies Enlightenment discipline, steady, curious, determined. Unfortunately, the crew does not. Within a day of landing, science has decisively lost the popularity contest to Tahiti itself, which is considerably more interesting than Venus. The island is warm, beautiful, and populated by people who don't seem to despise their existence. It's genuinely confusing. You spend initial days establishing tents and instruments for astronomical observation, but your eyes keep drifting toward the beach. Local women paddle out in canoes, laughing, singing, and waving up at the ship. They're offering fruit, flowers, and something that makes every sailor aboard forget how telescopes function. Cook, ever the professional, attempts to maintain respectability. He insists on preserving order, keeping the mission purely scientific. But you and your crewmates are men who haven't encountered women, warmth, or moral boundaries in months. The moment Cook turns his back, half the ship leans over the railing like Victorian tourists experiencing a fever dream. Then someone makes a discovery that transforms everything. The Tahitians treasure iron. Not jewels, not gold. Iron. To them, it's invaluable, a metal they cannot produce themselves. To you, it's a handful of nails and a moral dilemma you'll ignore immediately. Cook wants you focused on the stars, but you've already discovered something far more fascinating. You're no longer studying Venus. You're negotiating with it. And somewhere in your consciousness, you understand that when paradise begins trading with a ship full of lonely men, science doesn't stand a chance. You step off the ship expecting formality, a cautious exchange of gifts, perhaps some polite gestures, and a few anthropological observations. Instead, you're greeted by laughter, music, and the unmistakable realization that the Tahitians are living considerably better than anyone on your floating wooden prison. They surround you with open arms and even more open smiles. The women wear flowers in their hair and approximately 3 square inches of fabric, which immediately destroys whatever moral foundation you possessed. The men are friendly too, offering coconuts, roasted fish, and introductions you barely comprehend because you're too busy staring at the scenery. You attempt diplomacy, but it quickly devolves into confused hand gestures and nervous grinning. Someone offers a metal button, which earns a delighted response and a kiss on the cheek. Suddenly, every sailor realizes they've been sitting on a gold mine of British miscellany. Buttons, spoons, belt buckles, everything becomes currency in this new tropical economy of affection. But then one of the women spots something else. A carpenter's iron nail glinting in sunlight. Her eyes widen. She touches it gently, fascinated. To her, it's magical. Stronger than stone, sharper than bone, more valuable than anything on the island. She points at it, smiles, and offers companionship. The sailor hesitates for approximately 3 seconds before making the trade. 1 nail for 1 night. History's least stable transaction. Word spreads faster than disease, which, incidentally, is now a growing concern. Within hours, nails vanish from storage, toolboxes, and eventually the hull of the ship itself. You'd think someone would stop this, perhaps a captain, or at least someone with basic survival instincts. But no. By sunset, the entire crew is conducting roaring business in iron-based romance. It's capitalism meets chaos, and you're a proud participant. From the beach, the Tahitians laugh and dance beneath torchlight, perfectly content. From the ship, you hear Cook's voice echoing across the water. "Where in God's name are all my nails going?" And somewhere between paradise and poor decision-making, you realize this expedition has stopped being about Venus. It's about anatomy now. It starts with one sailor, probably the type who considers reading witchcraft. He hands over a small iron nail, maybe 2 inches long, to a smiling Tahitian woman. In return, she offers fruit, a flower garland, and then something that makes the rest of the crew's brains collectively shut down. No one records exactly what happens next, but the result is clear. Within minutes, iron has become the island's new gold standard. You stand nearby, pretending to be shocked, but mostly calculating how many nails you can borrow before the ship collapses. The crew catches on quickly. By sunset, the first official nail-based economy in the Pacific is thriving. The exchange rate? 2 nails for conversation, 3 for a kiss, and anything more requires tools from the carpenter's chest. Of course, Captain Cook is furious. He's a man of science, reason, and reinforced wood. Watching his crew dismantle the ship one flirtation at a time drives him to distraction. You can practically see him aging by the minute, standing on deck, clutching his logbook like scripture. He orders inspections, counts supplies, and reminds everyone that HMS Endeavour is a vessel of exploration, not a floating marketplace. But try explaining that to men who haven't touched a woman since crossing the Prime Meridian. You might as well ask them to trade everything back. Every nail pulled from the hull is another small victory for desire and another step toward maritime disaster. Meanwhile, the Tahitians are thrilled. Iron tools transform everything. Their knives grow sharper, their fishing gear stronger, their houses sturdier. They believe the British are the most generous visitors ever. They have no idea the generosity comes from catastrophic stupidity. By week's end, you can hear the ship groaning at night, quite literally. Each creak sounds like judgment. Cook starts pacing, muttering about discipline and moral decay, while you and the others pretend to fix rigging with the remaining 2 nails left in existence. You came to study the heavens, but somehow you've bartered away the sky for flesh and folly. Congratulations, you've invented the world's first romantic supply chain crisis. By now, Captain James Cook looks like someone who's aged a decade and lost a ship, which, to be fair, he's halfway toward accomplishing. He paces the deck in silence, attempting to pretend his crew hasn't transformed a scientific expedition into the world's least discreet social experiment. You can almost see the headache radiating from his skull like heat from a forge. Cook, ever the Enlightenment man, believes in reason. The crew, however, believes in opportunity, specifically the opportunity to trade anything not literally nailed down. Unfortunately, that last part has become literal. Every day, another handful of nails disappears. Every night, another sailor returns to the ship, looking both satisfied and slightly guilty. You try to appear busy, rearranging ropes, polishing cannons, occasionally squinting at the sky to create the illusion of astronomy. But Cook isn't fooled. He knows. The logs are missing nails, the tools have vanished, and the ship itself sounds like it's sighing in defeat. One afternoon, he summons everyone to deck. His tone is calm, the kind of calm that precedes biblical wrath. "Gentlemen," he begins, "you will refrain from further barter of His Majesty's property for personal indulgence." He delivers it like a priest performing last rites over the concept of common sense. You all nod obediently. You even salute. And within 20 minutes, someone's prying up a floorboard. Cook posts guards at the tool chests. The guards immediately discover they too have needs. Within hours, the captain's new security measures have joined the island economy. Cook's journal entries grow increasingly desperate. "The men are slipping into depravity," he writes, which is putting it mildly. He knows that if this continues, there won't be enough nails left to keep the ship seaworthy, or to construct the gallows he's now fantasizing about. At dinner, the officers discuss reinforcement strategies. Below deck, someone's quietly dismantling a hammock frame for trade. The contrast is poetic, if horrifying. You glance at Cook's face in the lamplight. His jaw clenches. His pen scratches, and somewhere deep in his soul, a small voice whispers, "I should have stayed in Yorkshire." It starts as a joke. A few missing nails here, a loose plank there. But soon it's not a joke anymore. It's an epidemic. The ship groans like someone with gout, and you're standing on deck,
pretending not to notice that the floor sounds increasingly optional. You'd think the men would stop, perhaps out of basic self-preservation. But when desperation and opportunity collide, logic takes a long walk off the starboard side. Each sailor has become an entrepreneur, prying iron from the hull, the tools, even the cooking pots. One man allegedly traded a hammerhead, another, a hinge. Someone removed the nails from the captain's own cabin door, which is bold, suicidal, or both. Cook knows. He can hear the ship's joints popping in the night like arthritic knuckles. He doesn't sleep anymore. You sometimes see him on deck at dawn, staring at the island with an expression that says, "I hate paradise." His scientific mission to chart the heavens has been replaced by a far more pressing question. How many nails are left before we sink? But the crew doesn't care. The iron fever has taken hold. Every successful trade feels like victory, a tropical gold rush powered entirely by desire and ignorance. You're all sweating, smiling, and inventing creative ways to explain missing ship parts. "It fell off, sir. The tide took it. The natives needed it for research." Meanwhile, the Tahitians are thriving. They now possess enough iron to build a small revolution. Their tools are sharper, their ornaments shinier, and their social lives considerably more exciting. They don't see exploitation. They see exchange. In their eyes, it's generosity for generosity, and they're winning the bargain. By now, the Endeavour sounds like someone trying not to cough in church. The boards creak, the masts complain, and the captain looks like he's aged into another century. But you? You've stopped worrying. You're too far gone. Another missionary of chaos in the empire of desire. You came to Tahiti to measure Venus. Instead, you've created a black market in hardware and hormones. The Royal Society would be proud. Eventually, even Cook realizes that diplomacy through bartering anatomy for iron cannot last forever. He slams the ledgers shut, declares an official end to all trading, and announces that any man caught exchanging His Majesty's property for personal satisfaction will face immediate punishment. You've heard that one before. It always sounds serious until someone remembers how warm the island is and how cold the brig is. Still, the atmosphere changes. The feasts stop. The laughter fades from the beach. The Tahitians don't understand what's wrong. They've welcomed you, fed you, entertained you, and suddenly you've all gone sullen and suspicious. From their perspective, you're the ones behaving strangely. From Cook's perspective, you've been behaving strangely since landfall. The ban hits the crew like a hangover. One day you're living in tropical bliss. The next, you're rationing water and pretending to care about astronomy again. The evenings grow quiet. The drums stop. The canoes no longer circle the ship. For the first time in weeks, you can hear the ocean again. And it's not comforting. It sounds like guilt. The crew tries to distract itself. Some men polish cannons that haven't been fired. Others count supplies they didn't steal. You stare at the horizon and wonder if the stars you came to study are still laughing. Cook walks the deck at night, grim and silent, his face illuminated by the lantern glow of disappointment. He wanted enlightenment. He got whatever this is, anthropology with consequences. The Tahitians, meanwhile, are hurt but pragmatic. They understand scarcity, even emotional scarcity. They keep their distance, still smiling, but the warmth has vanished. When they do trade, it's for coconuts, not companionship. The paradise you broke has quietly returned to normal. You're the ones who can't. At supper, the ship creaks again, reminding you that the moral cost wasn't the only one. You eat salted pork, chew in silence, and wonder if paradise ever forgives, or if it simply waits for the next fool to anchor offshore. You came seeking the heavens. Instead, you learned what happens when humanity meets temptation and forgets to bring enough nails home.
The day finally comes when Cook announces it's time to leave. No fanfare, no ceremony. Just a grim note in the logbook and a reminder that miraculously, a few nails still hold the ship together. You pack your things, pretend you're not heartbroken, and try not to make eye contact with the island that made you forget your duties, your morals, and your ship's structural integrity. The Tahitians gather along the beach to see you off. They wave and smile, not with anger, but with the calm acceptance of people who've seen travelers come and go, always promising to return, never meaning it. Some bring gifts, fruit, shells, flowers. You have nothing left to give them except awkward gestures and the vague hope that history won't record any of this too specifically. Cook stands at the bow, silent. His jaw is tight, his knuckles white on the railing. You can tell he's already rewriting the report in his head, replacing catastrophic moral breakdown with limited social contact. He wants to leave quickly, before the island's laughter follows him home. As the longboats push off, the water glimmers around the oars. The island grows smaller, but its colors stay burned into your mind. The green hills, the blue lagoons, the gold of the setting sun, and the faint echo of drums fading into the wind. You don't look back for long. No one does. It's easier to stare at the horizon than at the consequences. Back on deck, the Endeavour feels different, hollow, almost embarrassed. Every plank creaks like it remembers what you did. The sails snap in the wind, impatient, as if the ship itself is desperate to leave before she falls apart or files a complaint. Cook orders full sail. No one argues. As Tahiti vanishes behind you, you realize paradise doesn't punish, it just forgets you. You'll tell yourself you were explorers, men of science, seekers of truth. But deep down, you know what history will call you. The crew who traded the heavens for a handful of nails and a very brief vacation from civilization. The open sea has never looked so dull.